Hey, what's up guys? It's Bro Vinny here back with another Pokemon Sleep video. Today we are going to talk about how I got 10 Pokemon to show up on one sleep research session. We're going to talk about the upper limit of how many Pokemon can show up, how Drowsy Power affects the number of Pokemon that show up, and how you can go beyond that by using incense and a ticket. So credits to whoever made this chart. I can't actually find you, I'm not sure why. If that is you, please leave a comment in the comment section below. And I would like a link to an updated version of this as you collect more data. So what this chart is to tell you how many Pokemon can show up in one research session if you reach a certain Drowsy Power. Now, regardless of how many sessions you sleep a day and how big your Drowsy Power is, you always start with 3 Pokemon that show up on your research session, irrespective of which area. So you can see Taupe Hollow, Cyan Beach, and Greengrass Isle all have 3 Pokemon showing up at 0 Drowsy Power. Then, as you reach a certain Drowsy Power, you'll get an additional Pokemon. So for example, in Greengrass Isle, when you reach about 970,000 Drowsy Power, you'll get an additional Pokemon. And then with each threshold, 2 million, 4 million, 8 million, and so on, you'll get more Pokemon that show up to a limit of 8. And we're pretty certain of this limit because we've seen a Giga Whale get 1 billion Drowsy Power and still only have 8 Pokemon to show up. And how we know 8 is because we count these numbers on the side here. That's 8 Pokemon. And by the way, as a side note, the red one is the 4-star. 4-star. So let's have a look at the Giga Whale. So this one's mine from this morning where I got 10 Pokemon to show up. I'll explain to you how it went from 8 to 10 in a moment. And this is a Japanese player who got 1 billion Drowsy Power, also known as Giga Whale Maziari 1105, and yet still only won a Top Belly 4-star sleep style. But what's interesting to note is that even at a 1 billion Drowsy Power, there were only 2 3-star sleep styles, and then 3 2-star sleep styles, and 2 1-star sleep styles. Compared to my measly 44 million, I had 1 3-star, 1 4-star, and 2 2-star sleep styles, indicated by these colors. So by the number of sleep styles, my number is actually not that far off from a Giga Whale. So honestly, if you're at Giga Whale level, at 1 billion Drowsy Power, it's probably better to split it over 2 sessions. So you can easily get 16 Pokemon showing up in a day. But that's a different point as to what I'm talking about today. Now, another side note here is that you might notice that the max and the minimum for each number of Pokemon to show up is slightly different. There is a little gap between 963,000 and 972,000, and that's because that's a gap in our knowledge. No one's yet reported Drowsy Power in that range and told us how many Pokemon is seen between 963 and 972. So in order to further this research and complete this chart, if you ever have a Drowsy Power that falls between the max of a previous and a min of the next tier, the next number of Pokemon, you should be letting the creator of this document know to narrow down the ranges or the gaps of knowledge in this chart. Okay, as to how I got 10 Pokemon to show up, so I was in Taupe Hollow this week, and Taupe Hollow's minimum is 43 million Drowsy Power, and as you can see, I got 44 million Drowsy Power. So that guarantees 8 Pokemon to show up. But the day before, I also threw in a Pokemon Incense, which will be an additional 1 Pokemon. So it doesn't replace a Pokemon that you have gained from the sleep research. So a 9th Pokemon show up, and in addition to that, Good Camp Ticket will also add 1 more Pokemon to show up every sleep session. And while the game doesn't tell you this, when you check the Good Camp Ticket, the extra Pokemon that appears for the sleep research only applies to 1 session a day. So if you're thinking of hacking the game by getting 2 extra Pokemon because you're sleeping 2 sessions a day, that doesn't work. You only get 1. as confirmed by our members on our Discord channel. And thank you to Inuyasha for explaining that. So while Good Cam Ticket is active, you can additionally do this add incense. So I can add a Krogunk incense, for example. Then a 10th Pokemon will show up on the next day. Now it is not possible to add another Pokemon incense because I tried it and it doesn't work. It says you can only add one Pokemon incense at a time. If you could add a second one, it would be 11 Pokemon that shows up in a day in a sleep session. That is the upper limit, but you can't. So the upper limit to how many Pokemon can show up is 10. And one last point is that if you actually go back to your sleep session, so under sleep data here, and if you click into this sleep session, you can actually see which Pokemon was the one that came from the incense as opposed to the Drowsy Power and as opposed to the Good Cam Ticket. The one that says plus bonus is the one that comes from your Good Cam Ticket. This is more for research, more for us to know that what Pokemon came from where. It's not really that useful. At the end of the day, whether you want it or not is a different question. As in whether you want to catch it or not, that's up to you. But why it helps with research is because it tells us whether the Good Cam Ticket has an equal chance as other Pokemon, other ways of spawning a Pokemon to get a higher star level. So for example, my Wynot here is 2-star. In previous days where I was running the ticket, you can see Gulpin is 1-star, Rattata is 1-star, Toxicroak 1-star, Ghastly 3-star. So it is possible to see higher star levels of Pokemon even using the Good Cam Ticket as the bonus, as the extra spawn for the day. For the incense one, you can't actually see. It doesn't actually tell you that it's a bonus. So that one, I'm going to assume, because I haven't done many incense Pokemon yet, but I'm going to assume it's the one that shows up at the end, at the bottom, before the Good Cam Ticket. But I could be wrong about that. It might be one of these. But what I do know is I use a Krogunk incense. So this is the one at the bottom here for my sample size of n equals 1. So I'm not 100% sure if Pokemon Incense will always show up at the bottom just before Good Cam Ticket's bonus Pokemon. And if you were curious, what this heart shape means is that you caught that Pokemon that day, but also the number inside means what friendship level it is at right now. So you will never see this heart with a number 1 because every time you do catch a Pokemon, the friendship level goes up by 1. So if this is your first time, for example, catching a Graveler, it will always show 2 because now it's currently at level 2, friendship. One more interesting point about this number is that it's actually live updated. So in other words, if you actually catch another Krogunk, in this case here, I've caught 4 Krogunks in the past, that's why it's friendship 5. If I catch another one in a new day, this day, the sleep data here will actually update to friendship level 6. So this is actually one way you can tell what friendship level you are at with each Pokemon, just by scrolling back in your data. That's all I have to say for today, guys. Thanks for watching. Please leave a like and subscribe to my channel if this video helped you.